What happens when you can't sell your home, you don't want to lose your low mortgage rate, but you still have to move? CNBC calls them accidental landlords, regular homeowners who never plan to be investors, now renting their properties because the market left them no choice. But is this actually a smart move or just delaying financial pain? Let's break it down.
Harder and harder to sell a home with persistent high prices, high mortgage rates, economic concerns weighing on the consumer. So sellers are trying a new tactic that could have a big impact on some investors. Diana Olick has the details in today's Property Play. Hi, Diana.
Hey, Morgan. Yeah, frustrated sellers reluctant to lower their prices anymore are instead putting their homes up for rent, so-called accidental landlords. And there are so many now, they're actually starting to affect rental supply and the big institutional landlords. The largest investors owning more than 50,000 homes are highly concentrated geographically. Invitation Homes, American Homes for Rent, and Progress Residential each hold over a third of their assets in just 6 U.S. housing markets, according to Parcel Labs.
In the CNBC piece, they highlight the rise of accidental landlords, people locked into 3% mortgages who don't want to give up that sweet rate. So instead of selling, they decide to rent. It sounds like a great way to hold on to equity while covering costs. But is it really that simple?
I just took my house off the market, and I'm going to tell you why. I listed my house 23 days ago, and at the time, there were only 2 houses for sale. Both of them had been sitting on the market for a little over 30 days. As soon as I listed, 4 more houses for sale, including my neighbor. And since then, there's been 2 more. I started going just a little bit outside of my neighborhood to see how long those houses were sitting. 75 days, 89 days. Your girl know how to take a hint. If houses are not selling and they're sitting, I'm not about to have the house on the market right now. It's just not a good time, obviously. So I started doing some research because I'm thinking I can't be the only person going through this. I ended up finding this article. 2 states where home prices are falling because there are too many houses and not enough buyers. They are talking about Florida and Texas. Now, the experts say that we're not going to have a housing market crash, but it looked like it. So anyway, I'm just going to wait until after the market cools down a little bit, and then I'll try again.
Exactly. When listings sit for 75, 80, even 100 days with no bites, sellers start panicking.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Renting feels like the only move, but here's a trap. If too many owners pivot to rentals, they flood the rental market and drive those prices down too. So it's not always the safety net people think it is.
These markets have seen rental inventory growth of well over 20% in the past year, much of it from former owner occupants, like Garrett Johnson, who bought a home in Dallas 2 years ago but was recently transferred to Houston. He tried in March and April to sell his home, dropped the price a few times, but crickets. So he decided to rent it and immediately got several offers.
They also talk about the expenses many accidental landlords don't think about: repairs, vacancies, and management costs. And this is where a lot of them get burned. They assume the rent will easily cover the mortgage, but then the water heater breaks, or the tenant leaves early, or they realize they need a property manager because they live in another state. Suddenly, that easy cash flow isn't so easy anymore.
We have a $550,000 home with a 2.5% mortgage rate. We don't like our neighborhood. Do we sell or do we rent? Well, let's run the numbers. This is why so many people are not selling their homes and they feel stuck. Let's say they bought this house for $350,000 in 2020, got a loan for $320,000 at 2.5%. Their payment out the door was probably $1,850. Now, 4 years later, their home was worth $550,000, so their property tax and insurance might have went up. Let's say $2,100 is their payment if they just stay. But if they're gonna sell, it's gonna cost them $30,000 to sell with fees and closing costs, leaving them with $520,000. But they said they owed $262,000 on the loan, so they'll leave them with $258,000 of cash to bring to their next property. Let's say they want to upgrade to a 650, just a little upgrade. They're going to have $20,000 of closing costs, leaving them with $238,000 to put down. Taking out a loan of $412,000 at 7% will now bring their payment with property tax and everything to $3,650. So by going from a $550 home to a $650 home, even with $238,000 cash down, their payment has gone up $1,500 a month. And what's even crazier is if you look back to 2020 when they had that interest rate of 2.5, even now, if they keep it, it's only going to cost them $135,000 in interest over 30 years. This new home at a $412,000 loan, if they never refinance at 7%, will end up costing them $574,000. So them moving from a $550,000 to a $650,000 house, even with $238,000 cash down, it's going to cost them nearly $450,000 in interest to make that move.
This is why being a landlord isn't really passive income. It's another job.
Working 12 hours a day for pennies, it's a miserable existence.
It's not the easy wealth builder TikTok sometimes makes it look like. For someone who never planned to be a landlord, this can feel like a nightmare.
I expect to hold it until the market recovers. I don't expect for it to recover super soon. You know, the expectation is that it'll be several years.
They point out that these accidental landlords are actually adding more rentals to the market. But here's the catch. Buyers are staying renters longer because affordability is still brutal. Even with more rental properties, demand for rentals stays high. It's like a tug of war, more inventory, but also more renters. It keeps the whole market stuck in this weird limbo.
Whoa!
Don't ever sell your house.
Yeah, if you need to move because of a job change or you're ready to upgrade to that next level house, you keep that house. You call a property manager and you turn it into a rental. You turn that into cash flow. You let the tenant pay that mortgage off for you and you build wealth. You don't even have to do any of the work. There's property managers all over the country that will do every step for you.
Some of my biggest mistakes in real estate are selling my own personal homes.
This is the opposite philosophy. Never sell. Let tenants pay the mortgage. Build wealth over decades. And honestly, for some people, that works. But accidental landlords, they're reacting, not investing.
What?
And then you look at what people are actually saying about this. Here are some comments from their video. My biggest regret was selling my first home. Should have kept it. Yeah, but what if your tenant stops paying? Not everyone can float that risk. Some see holding property as the smartest move. Others think the risk isn't worth it unless you're financially prepared. I think it depends on your situation. Are you acting like an investor or just hoping for the best?
But deliver us.
The concern for the big investors, according to Mizuho analyst Handel St. Juste, is that the big landlords who have been getting 4 to 5% rent growth in their renewals and 75% retention in their portfolios won't be able to sustain that. Those big landlords have already become net sellers of individual rental properties and are instead turning more to the build-for-rent communities.
So what does this mean big picture? More accidental landlords means more rentals, but not necessarily cheaper ones. It keeps home sales lower because fewer people are selling. And it might create a wave of reluctant investors who either learn to love real estate or regret ever renting their home out. Have you been in this spot? Would you rent out your home if it didn't sell? Or would you just cut your losses? Drop your take in the comments. Accidental landlords might sound like a temporary fix, but they're reshaping both rental and resale markets, keeping inventory tight and making the housing market feel stuck. Is renting instead of selling a smart way to ride out the storm, or just a way to postpone the inevitable? Tell me in the comments. And if this gave you something to think about, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one right here on The Breakdown.